Jessica Martins was mopping the floor in the living room when she heard screams coming from upstairs. It was a Tuesday morning like any other in the mansion of businessman Diego Sampaio. But something in those screams made her drop everything immediately.
Dad! Dad, where are you?
The voice belonged to Heitor, the 8-year-old boy. Jessica knew that voice well, but she had never heard him scream in such desperation before. She rushed up the marble stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. She found Heitor in the hallway, standing frozen in front of his father's bedroom. His face was red as a pepper, and he swayed back and forth as if he might collapse at any moment.
Heitor, what's happening, sweetheart?
The boy turned to her with glazed eyes, as if he didn't recognize her at first.
Aunt Jay, I don't feel good. Where's my dad?
Before she could answer, Heitor's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed. Jessica lunged forward, but couldn't catch him in time. The boy tumbled down the stairs, his head hitting the cold marble. By the time she reached the bottom, Heitor lay motionless on the floor, a pool of blood forming beneath his head. Jessica knelt beside him and touched his forehead. It was burning with fever.
Oh my God, what do I do now? Your dad isn't here.
With trembling hands, she grabbed the phone and dialed 192, the emergency number.
Hello, Samu? I need an ambulance now. A child fell down the stairs and is unconscious.
The voice on the other end sounded exhausted. Ma'am, unfortunately, we don't have any ambulances available right now. There was a serious accident on the highway with multiple victims. All our teams are on the scene.
But this is an emergency. It's a child.
I understand, but it'll take at least 2 hours before we can send someone. Jessica hung up and immediately called Diego's cell.
The number you dialed is out of coverage area. Please try again later.
She tried twice more. Nothing. Diego had left early for an important meeting in another city and wouldn't be back until evening. Heitor began convulsing in her arms, his small body trembling violently as he mumbled nonsense.
Mom, where are you?
Jessica knew he was calling for his mother, who had died 3 years earlier. The boy barely remembered her, but whenever he was sick or scared, he always called for her. Then, Jessica spotted the red Ferrari's keys shining on the hallway table. Diego was extremely protective of that car. He never even let the chauffeur drive it. But in that moment, she didn't hesitate. "Forgive me, Mr. Diego, but I have to save your son." She grabbed the keys, lifted Heitor into her arms, and ran to the garage. The boy was heavier than she expected, but adrenaline gave her strength. She strapped him into the back seat, her hands shaking so badly she could barely fit the key into the ignition. She knew how to drive. She'd learned years ago in her ex-boyfriend's beat-up car. But she'd never handled anything as powerful or expensive as this. When she pressed the accelerator, the car lurched forward so violently she nearly flew into the back seat. "Calm down, Jessica. You can do this." She eased out of the garage, but once on the street, she floored it. The Ferrari roared to life and she gripped the wheel tightly. "God help me. Don't let this boy die. Please give me the strength to get to the hospital." Heitor was eerily silent in the back seat. Jessica checked the rear-view mirror every few seconds, terrified he might stop breathing. At the first turn, she almost crashed into a pole. The car was nothing like what she was used to. More sensitive, faster, but she slowly got the hang of it. "Hang in there, Aitor. Aunt Jay's taking you to the hospital. You're gonna be okay." 20 minutes later, she screeched to a stop in front of the emergency room. She grabbed Aitor and ran to the reception desk. "Please help! He fell down the stairs and passed out." 2 nurses rushed over with a stretcher, followed by a young doctor. "What happened?" "He fainted from fever and fell. It's been about 20 minutes. The doctor touched Aitor's forehead and frowned. "Severe febrile seizure, critical condition. Take him to bed 3 now." Jessica stood frozen in the hallway, watching them wheel Aitor away. Only then did she realize tears were streaming down her face. "If I'd been any later, it could have been so much worse." 40 minutes later, Diego stormed into the hospital like a hurricane. He'd been on the highway exit when his phone finally got signal, and he saw the missed calls from home. He'd taken an alternate route to avoid traffic and driven like a madman to get there. When he saw Jessica sitting in the waiting room, clothes wrinkled, face red from crying, he ran to her. "Jessica, how's Aitor? What happened?" "He fainted from fever and fell. He's hospitalized, but the doctors say he'll be fine." Diego exhaled in relief for a second. Then reality hit. "Wait, how did you get him here? Where's the car?" Jessica lowered her head. I took your Ferrari. There were no ambulances. Your phone was out of service. You took my Ferrari without permission?" His voice echoed through the hospital. Everyone turned to stare. Jessica stood up, startled. "Mr. Diego, I can explain." "Explain what? You had no right. You could have wrecked it." "I'm sorry, but your son was dying. I tried everything." "You're just an employee. You don't get to make decisions about my son." A receptionist stood up. "Sir, please lower your voice. This is a hospital." Diego ran a hand through his hair, breathing heavily. He was scared, angry, and taking it all out on Jessica. The truth was, he was terrified of losing his son the way he'd lost his wife. "Where is he? Can I see him?" "The doctor will speak with you now." At that moment, the doctor who'd treated Aitor appeared in the hallway, removing his gloves. "Mr. Diego Sampaio?" "That's me. How's my son?" The doctor glanced at Jessica, then back at Diego. "Your son had a severe febrile seizure caused by an infection. He's stable now, but he arrived just in time. Any later, and the risks would have been much higher." Diego's legs nearly gave out. "Risks?" "Yes, this young woman did the right thing. She saved your boy." Diego looked at Jessica, who stood with her head bowed, wiping tears with her sleeve. I'm sorry, Jessica. I was just desperate. Your son will stay overnight for observation, but there's nothing serious. Would you like to see him?" Diego nodded, and the 3 of them went to the room. Aitor was awake but weak. When he saw Jessica, he smiled. "Aunt Jay, you came!" "Hi, sweetheart. How are you feeling?" "Much better. The doctor said you brought me here in Dad's car." He reached for her hand. "You saved me, didn't you? Like an angel." "Oh, it was nothing." "Did my dad thank you?" Diego stood frozen in the doorway, watching the scene. For the first time in 3 years, since his wife had died, he felt something shift in his chest. It was as if a door that had been locked tight had cracked open just a little. Jessica cared for Aitor with a tenderness he'd never seen in anyone else. It was natural, like a mother would. "Dad, come here." Diego approached the bed. Aitor took his hand and Jessica's, then joined them together. "There, now we're all together." Diego met Jessica's eyes. She was a simple, hard-working woman who had risked everything to save his son, and he had yelled at her, treated her horribly. "Jessica, how can I ever thank you?" She smiled, eyes still red. "You don't have to. Anyone would have done the same." "No. You did what a mother would do." It was the first time Diego had said those words since his wife's death. And it was the first time he'd looked at a woman and felt he could trust her completely. Hator fell asleep holding both their hands. Diego and Jessica stayed there in silence, lost in their own thoughts. Neither of them knew this was only the beginning of a story that would change their lives forever. 3 days later, after Hator was discharged, Diego called Jessica into his home office. She entered nervously, convinced she was about to be fired for taking the Ferrari. "Sit down, Jessica. We need to talk." She perched on the edge of the chair, hands sweating. "Look, I know I yelled at you at the hospital. I shouldn't have." "It's okay, Mr. Diego. You were worried about Hator." "No, it's not okay. You saved my son, and I treated you terribly." He opened a drawer and pulled out an envelope. "I want to raise your salary. It's the least I can do." Jessica opened it and gasped. It was double what she made. "Mr. Diego, this is too much." "You deserve even more. Hator hasn't stopped talking about you." It was true. Since returning from the hospital, Hator clung to Jessica constantly, asking for help with homework, bedtime stories, playing in the yard. The boy was happier than Diego had seen him in years. "Tell me, why did you drop out of college?" Jessica sighed. "My mom got diabetes and needed expensive medicine. It was just the two of us. I couldn't afford tuition and her meds." "What were you studying?" "Pedagogy. I always dreamed of teaching little kids." Diego studied her. She spoke of her lost dreams without bitterness, just quiet sadness. She had a huge heart, he already knew that, but she was also smart, dedicated. "You have a gift with children. Hator's happier than I ever thought possible." As he spoke, his fingers brushed against hers on the desk. Just for a second, but both felt an electric jolt. Jessica pulled her hand away quickly, blushing. I should get back to work." Diego stayed seated, staring at his hand. What was that? The trap. That afternoon, Dr. Patricia Castaño, Hator's pediatrician, arrived for his monthly checkup. She was an elegant 34-year-old woman, always dressed in expensive clothes and perfect makeup, cold but professional. "Hi, Hator. How are you, champ?" "Hi, Dr. Pat. I'm great. Aunt Jay took super good care of me at the hospital." Patricia forced a smile. "That's great, sweetie. Where's your dad?" "He's talking to Aunt Jay in the office." Patricia's stomach twisted. In the 3 years she'd treated Hyder, Diego barely spoke to the staff. Now he was having private conversations with the maid. She examined Hyder quickly, then headed to the office. Through the slightly open door, she saw Diego and Jessica deep in conversation. The way he looked at her. Patricia knew that look. She waited until Jessica left, then entered. "Diego, we need to talk about Hyder." "Sure. What's wrong?" "Physically, he's fine, but I'm concerned about his excessive attachment to the maid." Diego frowned. "Excessive?" "He's too attached to her. It could harm his emotional development." "Patricia, my son is happy for the first time in 3 years. After his mother died, he shut down. Now he laughs, he plays." "I understand, but you need to be careful. We know nothing about her past." Diego gave her a strange look. Patricia had never questioned staff before. When he walked her to her car, Patricia paused, staring at the mansion. Her hands trembled with rage on the steering wheel. 3 years she'd waited for Diego to grieve and notice her. 3 years refusing other men, dreaming he'd return to her. And now he was falling for a maid? That woman won't steal what's always been mine. The betrayal. A week later, Patricia set her plan in motion. She called Jessica aside. "Jessica, there's a new family protocol after Hyder's accident. Everyone who cares for him now needs full medical testing." Jessica was confused. "But I feel fine. It's just precaution. Diego's worried about any health risks to Hyder. But I've worked here over a year. I've never needed tests before." "Exactly. That's why he's implementing this now. You know how protective he is." Jessica reluctantly agreed. "Where do I get these tests?" "At Vita Diagnostics. Just say you're my patient." As Jessica left, Patricia smirked. The next day at the lab, Dr. Carlos Moreira, an old classmate Patricia was blackmailing, falsified Jessica's results, HIV positive. When Patricia delivered the fake diagnosis to Diego, he was shattered. "She could have exposed Hyder to risk. You need to fire her immediately." Torn between doubt and fear, Diego dismissed Jessica the next day with a weak excuse about budget cuts. Hyder was devastated. He stopped eating, playing, smiling. He kept asking for Aunt Jay. A month later, he collapsed at school from severe depression. The doctor's diagnosis? He's grieving. If this person is still alive, she needs to return to his life. The truth. Diego's doubts grew when a nurse friend revealed Jessica had recent clean test results. Confronting Patricia, he uncovered her scheme and her obsession with him. "I falsified the results because I love you. That maid doesn't deserve you." Devastated, Diego raced to find Jessica, now working a grueling cleaning job to support her sick mother. "The tests were fake. Patricia lied. I'm so sorry." Jessica was shattered. "You believed I'd hide something like that? That I'd risk Heitor?" "I was scared, but I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Redemption. Jessica returned. Heitor recovered. Diego and Jessica slowly rebuilt trust, then love. 2 years later, they married in the mansion garden, Heitor beaming between them. "Now we're a real family." As they drove Heitor to school in the Ferrari, the same car that started it all, Jessica smiled. "Funny how the worst moments lead to the best endings." Diego squeezed her hand. "And how the people we almost lose become the ones we can't live without."